Hi you guys, it's me Oksana again with another video tutorial about photography. Last time we were talking about aperture. Let's talk about shutter speed today. Remember, in every camera there is a shutter, which is like a door which stays closed, and whenever you take a picture it opens and lets light into the camera and then closes again. So actually we can control how long that shutter is open. The time how long the shutter is open, called shutter speed. So let's talk about that in this lesson. Let's get started. Shutter speed represents the time what the shutter remains open while taking the picture. Less time shutter remains open, the less light gets into the camera, and the more time shutter remains open, more light gets into the camera. Shutter speed is measured in seconds or fractions of seconds. These are full stops of shutter speed. You can see the slower shutter speed on your left and the faster shutter speed on your right. Of course, 1 second shutter speed would be much slower than 1/500th of the second shutter speed. You should also know that every previous full stop of shutter speed lets twice as much light into the camera as the next one. So this way, 1 second shutter speed lets twice as much light as half of the second shutter speed. Those who watched my previous video about aperture should remember the same relationship between full stops of aperture. So every previous stop of aperture lets twice as much light into the camera as the next one. In the most cameras, a shutter speed is displayed as a whole number, which eventually is a fraction. This way, 1/500th of the second shutter speed will be displayed in the camera as 500. The slower shutter speeds, like 1 second for example, will be displayed in your camera as 1 and quotation marks. So actually, when you look at shutter speed number in your camera, the bigger the number, the faster the shutter speed. The smaller the number, the slower is the shutter speed. The numbers with quotation marks are the slowest shutter speeds, and the bigger the number with quotation mark, the slower the shutter speed is. Let me show you how to change your shutter speed in the camera. First, you have to set your camera into manual mode. The shutter speed dial is right here. As you can see, as I turn it, my shutter speed is changing. In most cases, you'll probably want to consider using shutter speed of 1/60th of the second or faster. If you are using shutter speed slower than 1/60th of the second and hand holding the camera, you're risking to get a camera shake, and your image wouldn't be as sharp as you might want it to be. For shutter speed slower than 1/60th of the second, consider using a tripod. Of course, some people can handhold the camera more steady than others. Your shutter speed also depends on what lens you are using. If you are holding 50mm lens and want to avoid the camera shake, use shutter speed 50th of the second or higher. Or if you are holding 250mm lens, use 2/50th of the second or higher. Some lenses have an image stabilization. With image stabilization, you will be able to use slower shutter speeds than you would use with a regular lens and still get a sharp image. Let's talk about photographing moving objects. The faster the shutter speed, the sharper the moving subject will be. Let's see some examples. I went and took a few pictures with a different shutter speed of the cars passing by. I also used the tripod to capture images with a slow shutter speed. This image was taken with a shutter speed 1/15 of the second. As you can see, car looks kind of like a ghost. 1/30 of the second is a little bit sharper. With 1/60 of the second, you can see car more clear, but it's still blurry. 1/25 of the second. 1/250 of the second looks much better. 1/500 of the second is almost there, just a little bit tiny blur. And finally, 1/1000th of the second looks perfectly sharp. You should also take into consideration the speed of the object. The faster the object is moving, the faster shutter speed you will need to freeze the movement. Take a look at this picture of a helicopter. I used shutter speed of 1/400th of the second to freeze the motion. As you can see, the helicopter itself is sharp, but its propeller is a little bit blurry. This happens because the propeller speed is faster than helicopter speed, and shutter speed I used was enough to freeze the motion of helicopter, but it wasn't enough to freeze the motion of propeller, which moving faster. So I needed to use faster shutter speed to freeze the propeller motion. Probably shutter speed 1/1000th of the second could work. Also, you should take into consideration the distance from camera to the subject. The closer the subject is to the camera, the faster shutter speed you will need to freeze the action. Please take a look at this little table. If you are taking a picture of a fast-walking person whose speed is about 5 miles per hour, to freeze the action at the distance of 25 feet, you will need a shutter speed of 1/125th of the second. At the distance of 100 feet, shutter speed 1/30th of the second will do the job. Of course, in real life, in most of the cases, you're not going to measure the distance or the speed of the moving subject, but I hope this table will give you a general idea. Let me show you just a few examples on how you can use your fast shutter speed. Fast shutter speed comes handy while you're shooting kids. Believe me, kids love to run and move around, so the fast shutter speed is the way to go. Also, fast shutter speed would be useful while shooting animals or birds which move fast as well. And of course, fast shutter speed is the key to the sport photography. Well, unless you want to show the movement with a little blur. Let's take a look how we can use slow shutter speed. Slow shutter speed comes handy while shooting at night without flash. Since there is a lack of light at night, the slow shutter speed, which keeps shutter open longer, will let more light into the camera. But remember to use the tripod to avoid a camera shake. This is a cool effect you can create with slow shutter speed. Instead of freeze the car movements, you capture in the motion. So instead of actual cars, you will see just the stripes created by cars' headlights. This is another cool effect, which is called panning. For this effect, you will need to follow your moving subject while taking a picture. So your subject will appear in focus, but your background gonna be kind of blurry in motion. This is a similar effect, but instead of following moving subject, I move the camera and use the flash to freeze the motion. Another slow shutter speed effect on your right. For this effect, you will need a zoom lens. To get this effect, you will need to zoom out your lens at the same time as you take the picture. And finally, my favorite slow shutter speed effect, painting with a light. To get this effect, you will need to set your camera in very slow shutter speed. I use shutter speed of 30 seconds for this image. So while your shutter is open for 30 seconds, you will paint your subject with a light. I used the flashlight with a colorful gel, and while my shutter was open, I was pointing the light at my subject. We will talk about those effects in my other tutorials in more details, but for now let's summarize everything we learned in this lesson. We were talking about shutter speed. Shutter speed indicates the time for how long shutter remains open while you're taking the picture. The longer shutter remains open, the more light gets into the camera. Shutter speed is measured in seconds or fractions of the seconds. The fast shutter speed is used to freeze the action, and the slow shutter speed is used to shoot the scenes in low light conditions. But remember, you should use the tripod while using very slow shutter speed to avoid the camera shake. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you, and I see you next time in my next tutorial about ISO. Bye bye!